Hello again, folks. Mark here. I am doing some work for Mike on the mace build. Obviously, as you've probably noticed, I'm working in a vastly different space, and as I'm sure you'll notice, got injured, missing a chunk of finger now. I can make a joke if you really want it, but I'm not going to go into it. I'm annoyed over how it happened and why it happened. So, without further ado, I'm just going to show you guys what I'm doing for layout, and then we're going to get to actually machining the thing. So, we'll see what happens. Alright, so this is the first piece of stock that I am turning into the head of this mace. This is 3-inch cold roll solid. It weighs, I don't know, 60, 70 pounds, something like that. I'm giving you my best guess on that. So what I've done, once I got this more or less indicated in the lathe, and I put a little blind hole there with a center drill to give my tailstock something to bite into and keep the thing from wandering. I got this end dialed in to where it should be, and then I went through and I put markings at where each of the individual stops and starts are. Since this is an interrupted cut on a chunk with a heck of a lot of kinetic energy when it's running, and my little old lathe, I'm gonna do what you saw me doing last time. I'm going to go slow as Christmas, and I'm gonna slowly peck away. This first section from about here this way, this section right here is gonna be 2.5, and this end down here is gonna be pointy when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and take from here down this way to 2.5 inches, which means I'm going to be sitting here running the auto feed, and it's going to be one big long interrupted cut for a lot of time. Interrupted cuts with any lathe is really hard on the tooling usually. Usually you'd want high-speed steel. However, I've got my old and fugly carbide from Horrible Freight that I regrind periodically whenever I need to, and it does well enough. So without further ado, you can watch me do a couple of cuts on this, and you can appreciate just how exciting this whole job actually is. Come up to about where it starts, and I took a couple of test passes just to make sure I was following along and doing what I should. So I know that I want to go a hair past 5 thou, and I know the tail back here is slightly off center, so I'm not quite catching all 4 corners of this thing at the same time. And this is an occasion where I'd really like to have a guard of some sort that clamped onto this, to just in case the worst happens. But I also don't want to take the amount of time that it would take to fabric hobble such a thing. Anyway. I've already got my stop here set, so I've got a good visual and physical indicator for when I should turn the auto feed off. And then we'll back it off and bring it on back. I guess it's $5 back, so 10. And one other thing to be aware of, I know this is not precision ground stock, so it's going to have some variation to it in regards to thickness and how parallel everything is. I've got it as close as I can, but I do know that it is out of parallel over the length of it, so it's kind of more a trapezoid, because one section of it is, one of the sides is slightly longer, which means it's not perfect square, but it's a hell of a lot closer than it would be if I was dealing with cold rolled stock. That, and this is all the guys at my supply house could get me in fairly short order. And also, if you've seen the other video, I'm guessing you've noticed that I finally took the time to go through and clean up my lathe as well. I went through and disassembled and repainted the whole thing. So essentially, that is what I'll be doing. Since I am trying to be cautious on this, I'm probably not going to be advancing anything more than probably 5 thou per pass, because that means I'll be advancing the tool here into the work and taking off 5 thousandths from this corner and from the opposite corner, which means essentially I'm reducing the diameter of corner to corner on this by 10 thousandths per pass. So you can do the math, as this is currently 3 inches this way, and I don't want to bother thinking about it from corner to corner. I've got several hundred passes to do to get this down to the diameter I want. So I'm going to shut the camera off for a bit and just do this again and again and again until it's down to that diameter. So later. Alright, so this is end of day 1 for working on this pig. This section down here, I've got it set to 2.5 inches right now. I started drawing the bevel that goes from square face to round. It's 67 degrees and change, thereabouts. I started cutting that, and then I realized on all the drawings that Mike and I have exchanged, we're looking just at this surface and not at our 3/4 view from the angle here. So I need to touch base with him and see if he wants me to carry this slope up all the way and have a smooth transition going from square to round, or if he wants me to have this swoop in very sharply from the square face so it meets on where the transition at this point goes from square to round, and have that curve right here kind of do most of the work for getting it to do that. Curving it is going to be the bigger pain in the butt, but I can make it work either way. But obviously it's moving. Anyway, more tomorrow.